I'm Lizzie Harrison for Card Player TV, and here's Brad Booth. He's going to talk to us about how he makes decisions when he's playing cash games, especially when he's deep stacked. First of all, how are you doing today, Brad?
Life is good. I'm down in Las Vegas having fun and just trying to get back on track and build up that bankroll.
All right, that's what you got to do. So tell me, how are you planning on building up that bankroll? Tell me, first of all, how do you take physical tells on other players when you're playing in a cash game, a ring game, not online?
Well, I mean,
what are you looking for?
There's so many tells. A lot of times I'll definitely key in on whether somebody cuts their chips in. Maybe they decide to announce their bet 3,300, or if they decide to go and not say a thing. You know, they all mean certain things, and for each player it's a different thing. So it's spending that time in the early rounds or just the beginning of the cash game to pick up on that kind of stuff. That's one big thing.
Okay.
You know, not so generic like crossing the arms and leaning back is generally strength, but it really depends on your opponents. You know, if they're really good players, generally you have to reverse psychology it, and if they are truly amateurs at the game, then you can kind of actually go on based on that kind of stuff. So.
Well, once you put a player on a hand, how do you decide whether you're going to act on your gut instinct? Like, let's say you put someone on a weak pair and you don't have them beat, but how do you decide if you're going to put that next raise in?
Well, I mean, you know, it comes down to really strength and weakness. I mean, if it's deep stacked, you can sort of muscle them around a little bit if you know where they are financially. Like one of the most important things when you do sit down in the cash games is recognizing where people are financially in their life, and how they assess the game themselves, and then you have to assess that certain situation. But it's it's strength and weakness. You know, like I know we wanted to talk about the Ivy hand. Like for that situation there, when I got Phil to lay down the kings, it was just
on high stakes poker.
On high stakes poker, I knew that Phil would just find a better spot. You know, he'd just say, okay, let this bastard have this one, and I'll take the next one. You know, so it was just it's just picking your spots like that and being able to deep stack poker is definitely something that I am. You know, I represent a deep stack poker player, and you know, short stack I don't play that well. I tend to play way too fast, way too aggressive, like with ace sixes and ace nines and stuff like that. If I get a raise on the button, I likely re-raise, and usually I find myself in a really bad spot. So I'm definitely enjoy playing deeper stacked.
All right, so what aspects of your game do you think make you a better deep stacked player? Like, what skills are really important for deep stacked poker?
Deep stack, big blind poker. It's I hate using the term picking your spots, but that's really what it comes down to. It's creating that image that day to the other players and knowing where they view you. Once you know how each player views you, it's now you're just in the reverse psychology game, and that's the strong part of my game.
Well, how do you get players to view you in the way you want to be viewed?
Well, a lot of times if it's an aggressive game, you might take the passive role and, you know, start mucking all your small blinds to the big blind. If the button raises, just fold down your hands and things like that. Or if you're in late position and you have top pair and they check the turn, rather than value bet that top pair, maybe just if you don't think you're going to get called on a bet, you might just check it down anyways, and now you have to produce and show your hand, and now they see how you're playing. So
and
you can
kind of you're checking hands like that.
Checking hands like that, so you can kind of play slow. A lot of times in a game, I'll if I know I'm not getting called on the river, I'll even check like a huge hand.
Really?
You know, just to gain information on how get them off kilter, but also find out how they played their hand. So it's just things like that.
So let's say you're walking to Bellagio, you're looking to play any cash game.
Sure.
How do you select the table you sit down at if there's a few options? What goes into play there?
Well, before, I used to just go sit down at any game. You know, for a live game, like for me in a live game, and I don't mean this in an arrogant or cocky way, I believe all games are good games, there's just some better than others.
Okay.
On the internet, I need to have really good game selection because I just lose so much money on there. But, you know, for a live game, it's generally I'll play, you know, any type of no limit game. You know, I try to avoid I do now the 4K, 8K game because it's just way too big.
Yeah, it's pretty nosebleed in that room.
So nosebleed and so much money, but it's you know, it's just like that. You know, if I'm properly financially equipped, I don't mind sitting in any game.
All right.
So.
Well, as you're building your bankroll back up, what stakes did you play as you progressed?
I mean, when I first lived at the Bellagio, when I was there for 2 years, you know, I was playing 10, 20, quarter 50, 50, 100, and then it just progressed from there. You know, I started in the 1K, 2K limit game and the 2-4 and the 4-8 big game. But, you know, and then we started playing a lot of the 100, 200 with 400 on the button, which is a beautiful game. So I just progressed like that. You know, I just built my bankroll up. I didn't take too many shots. A lot of times I sold pieces of myself. You know, when I started playing the 200, 400 game and I had $500,000 or $1 million or whichever it was, I would still sell 50% of myself into a game.
Is that common in cash games? Because you hear about in tournaments all the time, stakes, but you don't hear about it as much in the cash games.
Yeah, there is quite a few people doing it nowadays, and one thing I would like to say about that, I think it's really important that if somebody has 50% of you or 25% of you, and you're at the same table, I think it's very appropriate to let the table know. Like the other night, I'd sat in we were playing 100, 200 PLO, and a friend of mine had 25% of me, and he was at the table. And I just made it table knowledge to everybody. Hey, just so everybody knows, my friend here has 25% of me. Just so, just so everybody feels comfortable and there's not any type of...
No one finds out about it in the bathroom or
something.
something?
Nobody finds out about it in the bathroom, but it's also, you expect that in return, because I know there's been a lot of people playing in bigger games that have big pieces of themselves, or big pieces
of others in the game?
Yeah, and I think it's totally impolite that they don't make it public knowledge, because once you have 50% of each other's action...
How does it affect the play?
I mean, it affects the play because it affects the play in a lot of different ways. I don't really want to get too much into it, but I just think that the people that are out there that are sharing a lot of percentages of themselves need to make it public knowledge.
All right.
Like in the big game, in the 4-8 game, if 2 players have 50% of themselves, or 1 player has 50%, generally people don't have 50% of each other, because that's borderline like a bit shady. But if you have 1 person in the game, you have 50% of their action. In the big game, they have to say it. They have to say, hey, just so you guys know, I have 50% of this person.
Well, that makes sense.
It's very respectable. So I think it should be done in the smaller limits as well.
Right.
So.
Thank you very much for coming up today, Brad. It was good to see you again.
You too, Lizzie.
Lizzie Harrison with Brad Booth for Card Player TV.